subtitle to your book, but I heard your message loud and clear. Thanks for letting your light shine for us. That's wonderful. We're going to end tonight with our sixth and final speaker, Dr. Lugo. He is an interventional and structural cardiologist and is the first fellowship-trained African-American in this specialty in all of North and South Carolina. He's the chief medical officer for America's EY, but he does more than tackle heart problems. He boldly confronts issues of healthcare writ large, and he is one of our own, an alum of the Wake Forest University School of Business, and also serves as a member of the advisory board for the Harvard Business Review. Thank you.
Good evening. So this well-minted person you see in front of you today has been battered, beaten, bruised, and bloodied because of adversity, seeking to navigate uneven playing fields. The bruises and the bleeding were not visible because the beating and the battering was not visible. The scars are invisible, but are permanent. In the course of my life and career, I've had bold visions that several consider to be hallucinations. It compels me to reflect on the saying, "You see me in my glory, but you don't know, but you don't know my story." So today we're going to talk about the fine line between a hallucination and a vision. I was born in Lagos, Nigeria, West Africa. I went to a high school called King's College Lagos, a boarding school, all male. I played intercollegiate cricket, and I also captained the swim team. But it was when I was 15 years old that a very specific incident happened that led me to decide that I would become a doctor. I had accompanied my mother to visit a family friend at the University Teaching Hospital in Lagos. While there, I witnessed a middle-aged woman being brought into the emergency room in a full-blown cardiac arrest. I remember today, very vividly, her furrowed forehead, a sweaty forehead, her wide eyes, her labored breathing, her limp body rolled by me on a stretcher. I remember vividly the piercing cries of her husband when she was pronounced dead. That day, I decided that I would become a doctor. I had the noble, naive, altruistic intent that if I was to become a doctor, I could prevent a family member or a friend of mine from experiencing such a thing. I went on to go to medical school in Nigeria, and I came to America to do a residency in internal medicine. Getting a residency in internal medicine was difficult because of the prevalent bias against foreign medical training in general, but specifically against foreign medical training from the African continent. After passing the required examinations that made me eligible to apply for residency programs, I put out 125 applications. I got 3 interviews, and I landed 1 job offer, 1 out of 125. I started my residency at Harlem, inner city, New York, where I got exposed to predominantly black and brown Americans. And I experienced the reality as to how America's healthcare has woefully failed to provide equitable care for its most vulnerable populations. In stark contrast, my fellowship was at an Ivy League medical institution in Midtown Manhattan, where my clients, my patients were predominantly middle class and upper class white Americans. I had access to the best of America's healthcare resources, and they experienced the best health outcomes that American healthcare had to offer. While I was doing my residency and fellowship, I experienced black-on-black racism, and that is a thing, as well as white-on-black racism. One senior physician told me to go back to Africa because doctors from Africa were not welcome here. I experienced overt, covert racism from some staff. And actually, I also experienced Caucasian patients who did not want to be treated blindly because of my race and my nationality. I finished my fellowship, and seeking jobs became another problem because of the continued bias against African American talent. One doctor, one CEO, told me to change my name, change my first name, from Yele to Yale. And I remember him very vividly saying, you need to change your name to Yale, so that folk can understand what you're trying to say. I kept my name because my name has a meaning. It has a distinct meaning. So I took a bold step. I started my own solo cardiology practice in Charlotte, North Carolina. I had a bold vision to build a group of African American cardiologists, having gone through what I went through. Within a month of starting my practice, making rounds in a hospital on my patients one day, I was apprehended by hospital security. I was accused of impersonating a doctor. Shocked and speechless. It was the nurse, the Caucasian nurse who had worked with me, who knew me, who validated my legitimacy, took that for hospital security to stand down. That notwithstanding my practice group, and when I socialized my intent to form a group of black cardiologists with some senior physicians, both black and white, they told me that if they thought it was impossible, considering the times, behind my back, they considered me to be overambitious, crazy, not grounded in reality, and foolhardy. Within 3 years, my practice had become established, and an article in the Charlotte, the Business Journal, described me as a doctor on the outside, edge in. Over time, 4 years, I formed a group of 3 African American cardiologists. We received the tacit approval of the medical community based on our work ethic and based on the quality of our patient care. Another article in the Charlotte Observer described us as minority entrepreneurs seeking a broader scope because we position ourselves as physicians that take care of everybody, not just the black community. Within 5 years of my getting to Charlotte, our then 4th physician practice was approached by each of the 3 existing cardiology practices that were all white, male, each seeking for us to consider a merger. We did merge with one, an 8-physician, all-male Caucasian cardiology practice that was aligned with our vision and our purpose. And we formed a 12-man cardiology group, 4 black, 8 Caucasian, and it was the first interracial merger of specialty medicine in the state of North Carolina. Indeed, one of the most proudest moments that I've had in my career is, along with my colleagues that you see there on the right, Dr. Kenneth Weeks is next to me, tall, Caucasian man. Next to him is Dr. David Dowdy, and on the far right is Dr. Gary Neese. The 4 of us were the facilitators of racial integration in specialty, in physician practices in Mecklenburg County. Over time, our practice grew to more than 30 cardiologists. And I would become president of the practice for 6 years. And here, I learned a very powerful lesson. And that is the lesson of servant leadership. A learned that leadership is not about the leader. That when you empower and develop your team, you are more likely to achieve superior performance and brand eminence. The responsibilities of my governance, and I must say that we got acquired by the second largest health system in North Carolina. And at that time, we were 50 physicians across the spectrum of adult cardiology, pediatric cardiology, and cardiovascular surgery. And that realization led me to wanting to pursue a degree in business based on the enormity of my governance responsibilities. I went to business school, and while I was in business school, I began having conflicting thoughts about whether I was going to go back to practice. One of the lessons I learned while I was practicing, in fact, I will say this, that I became a cardiologist to all people. I was a cardiologist to the rich, the poor, all races, the racist and the inclusive, federal agents, the politicians, clergy, undercover federal agents. Indeed, I was a cardiologist to a mafia operative who had relocated to New York, from New York City to North Carolina under witness protection. And indeed, I was also the cardiologist to the Grand Wizard of the KKK in Gaston County. Now go figure that. Go figure that. We had to work through our relationship over about a year. We did eventually work through this. So fast forward to when I'm in business school. I had to take courses from one of my classmates because I needed to brush up on finance and Excel. My classmate, business school, sorted me out. And I must say that taught me a lesson in humility. Because my classmate who sorted me out was in high school with my daughter. So it taught me and it gave me an appreciation of humility, that you never know where your help comes from. You're never too old to learn. I was in my 50s when I went to business school, and who does that? You're never too old to learn. And you can learn from teachers who are the ages of your children. And where I am now, as Chief Medical Officer of a global Big Four consulting company, and Chief Medical Officer, Director of the Center for Health Equity. And the work that I do has expanded beyond patient care in America to advising clients in America, as well as globally, on optimizing healthcare across global footprints. I lead the Center for Health Equity at EY that I founded, and I have been on the board of directors for both our health sector as well as our life sciences sector. I want to talk about social capital. So here's a collage of photographs. Some of the people you will recognize there, but it's my wife in the middle and myself. Social capital is, in my mind, an important enabler of impact. Social capital is defined as the value you derive from engaging in social networks, business networks, and political networks. And social capital opens paths and doors that ordinarily you wouldn't have access to, that get you closer to center tables, get you closer to where decisions are made, get you closer to impact delivery, if you seek to deliver impact. Over the years, I have reflected on my purpose, and I've come to realize that my inadvertent encounter with a dying woman at the age of 15 then sparked my search for my purpose. It also led me to my first vision, and it was to own a hospital in Lagos, a 4-story hospital. The ground floor would be for general surgery, the second floor would be for women's health, the third floor would be for pediatrics, and the top floor would be for adult medicine. As a teenager, that was my vision. 10 would tell you that would be a hallucination. So my purpose in life, I've come to define, to be able to impact the health of humanity. And to do so by helping people live healthier lives so that they can feel better and so that they can live longer. And healthcare is my platform. And it began at the bedside. It has now moved upstream to assisting organizations within the health industry to optimize the value chain across payers, providers, public health, and life science organizations. With purpose, one seeks to go to the true north. And purpose and preparation and performance ordinarily should take us to our utopia, the North Pole, the true north, whatever you call it. And the reality is that the road to the true north is not linear as one would expect. It is fraught with pitfalls, setbacks, ups and downs, successes and failures. The reality is the true north looks like this. So we have to understand that as long as we have more successes than failures, then we stand in a position where a balanced scorecard of life is likely to be in the net positive. So I hope to inspire you today with the realization that even when you're faced with adversity and the slimmest of opportunities presented to you, even if you have just one shot out of 125 to get into a residency program, seize that opportunity and march forward and create your own brilliance. When people think you're crazy and your vision is a hallucination, stick true to your vision. The haters, the naysayers, stop chasing butterflies. Mend your own garden and watch the butterflies come to you. So I've talked about a number of things. Purpose. It's important for us to define who we are and what we are and what we're going to do. It can be a small purpose, it could be a large purpose, but there should be a purpose. It takes preparation to be able to deliver what your purpose is. And it takes performance as well. It also takes positioning within circles of social capital to help you facilitate that impact. So here's my call to action. When you get into your quiet headspaces today, tonight, tomorrow, or whenever you're in that quiet headspace, ask yourself, how do you rank in the zone of social capital? What's your social capital quotient? What do you need to do to make it better? Write those down, and then when you get home, or whenever, work on it. The road to impact involves these elements here. The social capital is a key enabler, an accelerator of impact. I started this evening by saying we're going to explore the fine line between a hallucination and a vision. I want to close by saying this evening that a vision is a hallucination whose time has come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Luca. And thanks to all of our speakers. Let's give them one more round of applause. We hope that your vision has been expanded and your hearts have been inspired so that your next steps may be bolder. Thank you for all of your work and for joining us here tonight. Peace.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes TEDx Wake Forest U 2025, Ideas Illuminated. That was our 14th annual event, and we were so happy to have you all in attendance. These videos will be edited and uploaded, so please watch and share with your friends. Have a good evening.